Okay, good afternoon. Right. So today we want to finish our discussion on normalization. Then we want to move on to SQL. Okay. So then database subject is over. You need to do some past papers. Okay. Right. So at the end of today, we will be done with this and we will move on to SQL. Okay. So then remember we are in the big topics. What are the big topics? Networking we have done, system analysis and design we have done, database management we are almost done. So then we have two more big topics. So then it's pretty much like syllabus is done. Okay. Now we are seriously into your big topics. Okay. Right. So let's do this. Right. So let's finish our discussion on uh, normalization. Okay. Right. So remember data normalization is uh, we can look at it in two ways. When you know the concept of data normalization, naturally you will apply the data normalization when you do the designing. Second thing is, after doing the designing also, you can check whether your database design is properly normalized as a checklist. And if not, you can fix those issues. Okay. And remember, the data normalization is based on two concepts: atomicity, data dependency, or functional dependency. And data normalization is a sequential process. You check whether it's in first normal, if not fix it. Then only you look at the second normal, if not fix it. Then only you check the third normal, if not you fix it and so on. So we look at, in the last class, we look at what is mean by atomicity. Right? When you have a field, it must have only one value. If there's a possibility of multiple values, it should not be a field. Rather, it must be a table creating one to many with the original table. And that is how we fix the first normal form issue. So what is mean by not first normal? Uh, that means at least one field is not atomic. Okay, atomic. So then we discuss how to fix it. You take that non-atomic field like contact number into a different table and create one-to-many relationships where the foreign key of that table is the primary key of the original table. So it's very simple, right? Is it fuzzy? Do you have any questions about that? So then you don't need to guess how many data will be there and facilitate for the biggest possible amount of data that is waste of your resources storage. And now, depending on how many records you will have how many values you have records. Okay. Right. So today we move on to our second normal form. Second normal form. So second normal form says, right? Your second normal form says, let me fix this. There's a F is not bold. Right. So second normal form says all your non-key fields must fully depends on the primary key. All of the primary key. That's it. This is related to functional dependency. That is why we discussed about functional dependency in the last class. Right? Every non-key field or non-key attribute must depend on all of the key, all of the primary key. Right? It must depends on each and every individual non-key field must depends on whole of the primary key, not part of it, not part of it. So there are two possibilities. Your non-key field does not depends on primary key, then it's anyway violating 2NF. The second thing is your non-key field depends on part of the primary key. So of if you have atomic primary key, single field primary key, you just need to check whether it depends on the primary key or not. Because there's nothing called fully depends on, because just primary key is one field. But then where is this whole of the key comes? If your primary key is composite, now you must be familiar with the terms, right? Composite means multi-value primary. Sorry, not multi-value, multi-field primary key. So then your non-key attribute must depends on full primary key, not just part of it, not just one of that composite primary key. No, it must depends on the entire primary key. Right? So therefore, you can break it into two scenarios. If your primary key is atomic, all your non-key fields must depends on your primary key. If your primary key is composite, all your non-key fields must depends on full primary key, not just part of it. Right? If there's any violation, that means it is not in 2NF, then you need to fix it. Is it clear? Right. If it is not yet clear, when we do an example, it should be clear. Or else you can ask. Right. So this is a table. So most of the time the issue is when you have composite primary keys. Now this is definitely a connecting table of a many-to-many relationship. Student can register for many courses, and obviously course can have many students. So therefore, remember in designing, we need to create a connecting table, and it has two foreign keys. One is connecting to the first table because it's a one-to-many. Other one is connecting to the second table. Originally, it was many-to-many like this. But now it's two one-to-many where you have the connecting table. So therefore, many side must have the foreign key. If this is P1, now your P1 is here. If this is P2, your P2 is also here. And this combination is your primary. Now you can have other fields. Field 1, field 2, field 3. So the second normal form says your individual fields must depends on full primary key, not just part of it. Right? If a particular field depends on part of it, not the full, that violates second normal form and you need to fix it. Is it clear? Is it clear? So this is all about your logical thinking. I told you that this subject A-level ICT is for logical thinkers, critical thinkers. If your mindset is just memorize and pass the exams, no, there are subjects. Right? I will tell you what subject you can do like that, but not IT, not IT, not math subjects, right? Not business management, not economics, not physics. So those subjects are for thinkers, not parrots, right? So that's why I told you in the very first day, make your selections wisely, right? In the very first day in A-level ICT. This subject is for logical thinkers, critical thinkers. If you are a parrot, don't select this subject. You will be in trouble. I told you in the very first day. Right. So this is an example. So you can see primary key is composite student ID, course ID. Obviously, because this is the connecting table of many to many relationship between student and course. And I told you, if you want, we can have additional fields. Additional fields. Now, second normal form says all your non-key fields, in this case, payment and course name are the non-key fields because this is the primary key, composite primary key. All your non-key fields must depend on the full primary key, not part of it. That is what is meant by no partial dependencies. Now, can someone identify, say, whether payment depends on full primary key or part of it? Just use your common sense and logical thinking. Can someone give me an answer? Don't worry if your answer might be wrong, but I need the reasoning. So you must tell whether it's the payment depends on full primary key, that is student ID, course ID combination, or just part of it. If so, which part? And also you need to explain, give a reason why you say so. So then course name, it's a non-key field. Does it depends on full primary key or part of it? Whatever your answer, you need to give a explanation. Maybe just one sentence explanation is enough. I'll give you 1 minute for you to think, and if you want, you can give me an answer also. Of course, I love to hear answers from you guys, but at least if you can't give me an answer, just at least think about it, and maybe you can keep answer with you at least, or you can put it into chat. But I'm really interested in the reasoning, whatever your answer is. Right? Take 1 minute and think, and possibly give an answer. Just think practically. Say this is a particular institute, private institute. So I call it private because the payments are done. And then see whether this is it, which whether the payment violates second normal form. If so, why? Post name is, does it violate second normal form? If so, why? No one want to give an answer. At least because these are the opportunities for you to build your leadership. Right? I saw yesterday also there's a heavy rain and people are demanding jobs from the government, right? Graduates. What a pathetic situation, right? Stupid people, right? Stupid educated people. They don't have guts to go and face the interview, right? Tragedy. Tragedy of education. So some people get the fruits, some people get the bad effects, right? Following the education in a bad way, wrongful way, ended up as a burden to the country. Right. So the simple answer is payment is okay. It doesn't violate second normal form because you can see that this payment is by student one for course one. Because when you register for multiple courses, you need to pay individually. You can't say this is my payment. You must say this payment is for my this course. This payment, say you are going for physical classes, say in a particular tuition institute. So then you must say, okay, this is my payment for physics. This is my payment for combined maths, right? You can't say this is my payment. So therefore, yes, this payment is by this particular student for this particular course. So that is perfect. So this payment depends on full primary key. Right? Payments depends on full primary key. That means it doesn't violate second normal form. So that we can happily keep it. Then what about if by any mean someone has designed like this? Let's assume someone has designed like this. So this guy has put up course name here, but you can clearly see that course name depends only on course ID. That is why whenever C1 it is bit, and whenever it is C2 it is BCS. Whenever it is C4, it is CMA, and again, if it is C1, it must be bit. So this clearly shows course name depends on course ID, right? Because course name doesn't depend on students. So that means it has violated second normal form because course name depends on part of the primary key, not the full primary key. So that means we need to get rid of course name because this has violated second normal form. So how do you fix it? Simple. You take these fields to the relevant table. This is not the place to be. You are in wrong place. Take it to the relevant place. If it is already in the relevant place, right? If it is already in the relevant place, just get rid of this because we have the course side. That is enough. And course side is enough because then we can go to the course table and find the course name. Course name, course fee. Course fee means fee, total fee for the course. This is paid. This is just payment by the student for that particular course. So therefore, this is fine, this violates. So this should go in to the correct table. If it is already there, just remove this. Right. Any question? Any question? This is second normal form. I just gave you example for violation and how to fix it. How to fix it. Okay. So this is after fixing. After fixing. So no longer course name is here. Payment is fine because course name is in the course table. And you have the course ID as the foreign key. So therefore, at any time, if you want to find the course name of the students who has done this much of payment, you can go to this table and find that, okay, that is this. Okay. So each normal form, you must know what is the issue and what is the solution. Okay, what is the issue? What is the solution? How the course ID is the primary key? Which table? Which table you are referring to? Because I have now two tables. Course table or student course table? Because there when there are two tables, you when you ask in the question, you need to specifically ask which table you are referring to, because then only I can explain. There's a question saying why course ID is the primary key. Student course. Because remember, this is the connecting table, right? This is the connecting table. In connecting table, theoretically, theory, of course, that valid theory. When you have many sites, remember this is coming from two one to as a one to two one to many relationships. Earlier it was many to many. So this primary key must be here as foreign key. This primary key must be here, right? P1, P2. Right? And now you can see that because it's many to many, you can have this kind of student one can do course one, student one can do course another course. For example, you can see student two has done course is doing course one, and also student two is following course two. So therefore, student ID alone is not good enough because student ID is good enough for this one, student table. If you just make student ID primary key, now this can't you can't enter this record. It says violating the. Remember we discussed about entity integrity constraints. Primary key must be unique. Now this is not unique, and you can't make course ID alone because then you can see same course ID is duplicated. So therefore, in your connecting table, always we need to make this combination as the primary key. Of course, that combination cannot be duplicated because this is student one course one. So again, you are not going to get student one course one because that information is already captured. Okay. So therefore, here the primary key must be the composite key because this is the connecting table. Right. So if you feel like it shouldn't be in the primary key, then check what is your solution and is it going to work? That is another way of you checking whether if you doubt this. So then you must come up with your solution and say, okay, this is also working. So then why do you need to have student ID? Then you will find that no, this is the solution. Okay. Okay. Right. Because we have not, if we can find a better solution, yes, but this is the best solution the software engineers, database designers has found, and we use it. Okay. But when we use that, don't violate second normal form, like taking this kind of a field into this table. That means your solution is now you are in the correct solution, but you have made a mistake. So that is why we want to double check whether it's violates second normal form, and if violated, let's fix it. Okay. So this is more important when we have composite primary keys. If it is a simple primary key, you just need to check whether your non-key field depends on the primary key. For example, say you have course table. Now this is a simple primary key. Now, obviously, course name depends on course ID, right? Because course name is related to course ID. But by any chance, someone has added a field like student contact number. So that is definitely violating second normal form because student contact number doesn't depends on course ID. Student contact number is completely different concept from course ID. That also violates second normal form. So then this field must be taken to the correct table. In this case, it must be student table, assuming only one student contact number we save. Otherwise, obviously, then it violates first normal form also. So likewise, you need to think in a proper way. Okay, proper way. First check whether it's first normal form violated, then second normal form violated, and you know the fix. So these are the same thing we teach in degree programs. In any degree program, you have the database subject. And definitely they learn this. Okay. Definitely they learn these things. Of course, whatever you learn in A-level ICT, you learn in degree program. And little bit more. Right? But under database subject, about 50% of degree program syllabus is again your A-level ICT syllabus. 50%. Then there's another sort of 50%. Additional things you will learn. Okay? Don't think that when you go for higher education, you learn completely new things. No. Right. So now we move on to third normal form. Third normal form. So remember, I told you we are only interested in first, second, third, and little bit about BCNF, boycott normal form. We are not interested in any other higher level normal forms. Not only in A-level ICT, even when you go for a degree program, again, we are only interested in first, second, third, and BCNF. Right? But BCNF is also, we are not very serious. It's simply one, first, second, and third normal form. Right. Now we are into the sort of the final one, third normal form. We do BCNF as a bonus. Okay, because it's not directly mentioned in your syllabus. Right. So our last serious normal form, third normal form. Remember, we check third normal form if it is already in first normal form. If not, we have fixed it. And it's already in second normal form. If not, we have fixed it. So now only we check whether it's in the third normal form. That is why I told you that normalization check is a sequential process. You can't randomly check third, then first, and then second. Right. So remember, second normal form is related to no partial dependencies. That is how you remember it in short, right? Of course, there's a long sentence, right? All your non-key fields must fully depends on the primary key. But short form, It's related to partial dependency. So likewise, the short form for third normal form is no transitive dependencies. But let's define it as a sentence. But short form, no transitive dependencies. Okay. Right. So what is the formal definition? So this is a casual definition, no transitive dependencies. Right. So we say that your database in third normal form if all your tables are in second normal form, and that means we check this only after it's already in second normal form. Each non-key attribute or field is directly depends on the primary key. Directly, the most important thing is directly depends on, not indirectly. Another name for indirect is transitive. So I hope you know the word transitive, right? For example, when you are leaving the country or when you go for a tour or whatever, say from Colombo, you want to go to Japan or maybe London or Paris. So most of the time you don't have direct flight. No direct flight from Sri Lanka. So most of the time there's a transit, possibly Dubai. So then you go to Dubai and from Dubai you go to London. Even when there's a flight, most of the time that flight will stop at Dubai and go. Sometimes you need to change to a different flight. So then we say that there's a transit in Dubai. Similarly, when you go to Japan, most of the time there's a transit in Singapore. Transit. So that is how the word comes, right? Transit. Now this is transitive dependencies. No transitive dependencies. So okay, so it's like you must directly go to Japan, not get off in Singapore and again get into another flight to Japan, right? So that means all your non-key fields must directly depends on the primary key, not through another field. Again, if you haven't understood it, again, let's do an example. Again, the solution is if you have third normal form violation, take that field that violate third normal form to the correct table. If it is already there, just get rid of the field. Because if the field is already there in that table, so then just simply get rid of it. Right, from this table. Let it be there. Right. So this is an example. Right. So this is a book table. Say something like a bookshop or book publisher. Say bookshop. So there are books that they sell, like novels and so on. So this is the book table. So the primary key is book ID. Every book has ID, like ISBN. So this is a field, book name, publisher ID. So who published this book, like Godage or whatever, okay? Oxford Press, publisher ID. And the contact number. So obviously this should be the contact number of the publisher, right? Because there's nothing called contact number of the book. Okay, so let's assume this is publisher's contact number. And obviously now we have single primary key, book ID, because book ID is good enough to uniquely identify a book, like ISBN number. Now you need to check whether your non-key fields, is it directly depends on the primary key or indirectly or transitively depends. So obviously book name depends on book ID, right? Because for one book ID, there's one book name. Do you have any question about that? So then publisher ID depends on book ID because this is the publisher of this book. This is the publisher of this book. So therefore, that is also fine. Then what about the publisher contact number? Does it directly depends on the book ID? No. Right? It is publisher that depends on the book ID. Right. So therefore, contact number, the publisher contact number depends on publisher ID. And publisher ID depends on book ID. So therefore, this is direct dependency. This is direct dependency. So these are okay. And this is transitive or indirect dependency. So the third normal form says you must not have the transitive dependencies in your table. That is bad. Okay. So what is the solution? Take this field to the relevant table. So this should be in your publisher table. Having publisher ID is okay because that is how you create the relationship. But don't take all the things in that table to this table because once you get the publisher ID, you can go to that table and find your publisher's contact number. So this is not related to book directly. It's indirect or transitive dependency. So just get rid of it and put it into the correct place. If it is already there, just delete it. If not, just put it there. So what is the correct place? Publisher table. This is not second normal form violation. This is third normal form violation. So this is the final solution. So book ID, book name, publisher ID, we have get rid of contact number. And in contact table, publisher table, we have the publisher ID, publisher and contact number. So therefore, at any time, we can find the contact number because P1 means this one, P2 means this contact number. Okay. So this is normalized. Now these two tables are in third normal, but this is not in third normal. It has violated third normal. So that is why we normalize it to this. Any questions? Any questions? Because we are done. In A-level ICT, we only look at first normal, second normal, third normal. First normal, second normal. But just be aware there's another one called BCNF, which we are not going to cover for A-level. So definitely they will not ask any question on BCNF, but just be aware that there's something called BCNF, or sometimes we call it 3.5 normal form, right? And there's something called fourth normal form. Don't worry, we are not interested in those. Not only we are not interested, even in software developers, so they are not much interested in BCNF and fourth normal forms because sometimes it is unnecessary, complicated process. So as a software developers, we are more concerned about first, second, and third normal form violations and fixing. Right. Any questions? Any doubts? Right. So if you don't have any doubts, we'll move on to the last subtopic under normalization, that is denormalization. So far what we have been discussing is normalization. So obviously you can guess, right? Denormalization is the uh, opposite of normalization. If this is normalization, this is denormalization. So then someone will ask, are you crazy? Right? After doing normalization, why do you want to reverse it? Because normalization is to make it better design. Okay. Yes, sometimes in life also we don't take the best decision. It may be best for you, but maybe may not be best for your family. Right? Maybe it's the best for you to migrate, but maybe you take a decision. Okay, I will wait. I will not migrate because it's best for me, but may not be best for my family. Maybe I just want to wait for another 1 year. So likewise, when we do things, designing things, it's not just one thing, right? Sometimes we need to look at few aspects, not just one aspects. So therefore, sometimes designers decide to denormalize the database. That means they know that this is violating third normal form. If I do this, it violates second normal form. Still, I do it for this particular benefit. But they do it knowing what they are doing, because they know that there are these drawbacks, because this is now I am violating normalization. But I'm doing this for these advantages. That can be done. So rules sometimes we break, knowing the consequences. Okay. Right. So for example, let's assume this is our table. And definitely we know that this is not normalized. This is not in third normal form, because contact number depends on only publish ID. And the publish ID depends on book ID. This is violated. This is transitive dependence. But maybe very rarely, of course, this is not a very good example for that. Very rarely, you may keep it. You may keep it. Of course, it's in this table also. That means you have duplicated your data. Same data in publisher table as well as now in book table. You decided, you know that this has violated the normal form. But still you decided, okay, still I will keep it. Still I will keep it. So if you do like that, that means it's denormalization. It's not because you don't aware of this. You don't know how to check the normal form. No, you know. But you knowingly, consciously, you keep it. So then we say denormalization. So then you must ask, why do we do denormalization? I told you, right? There can be some other benefit. Right? For example, say there's a report we frequently generate. Right? There's a report that we frequently generate. And also say there are a lot of data also. So then that report needs not only the book name, we need the publisher's contact number. We need it. And we need that very frequently. For example, whenever we are interested in book, we are interested in contact number. Let's assume in a bookshop that may be the case. If the book is not there, then we can quickly call that publisher number and check. So if so, maybe we will decide to keep it. Yes, we know that this is violating the normal form and this is transitive dependency. Still, we keep it simply because we need this information most of the time when we need book details. Let's assume. Otherwise, there's a join. You need to take some data from book table, then take data from publisher table, because contact number is here. And you will learn how to do those joins in SQL. Join in two tables and get common record set, but it's costly. It takes time, it takes memory. If you have thousands of records, sometimes if you are concerned about performance, you may decide, I will keep this. So that is denormalization, right? Denormalization. But there should be a specific reason, right? So those are the decisions we take sometimes, okay? And here also, maybe we can keep the course name, knowing that this is violating second normal form. But we frequently need course name. Whenever we take details, maybe almost all the time we are looking for course name. Of course, you can get it from the joining with the course table, but maybe keeping this here make it faster to retrieve data. Maybe we can keep it, but knowing So there should be very good reason, right? So these kind of decisions are taken by senior architects and so on after considering lot of things. Okay. It's like doctor knows that this medicine is harmful, not the safest, but doctor has no other option because otherwise maybe the patient is in a bigger danger. So then doctor will decide, okay, let's go with this. We have no other option. Otherwise, things are even worse. So these are also similar situations. Okay. Right. So then we call it denormalization. Okay. Right. So that's it. Any questions? Any questions? Because we are done with normalization of data and we want to do few MCQs before moving to SQL. SQL is a huge topic. Okay. We need 2 days for that. Don't worry, we are going to start SQL, but we need today and 2 more sessions. So let's do a few past paper questions related to normalization and maybe designing as well. Now we can do all the second paper questions also. Okay. 90% of the second paper because it's very rarely they ask question from SQL in second paper. So let's straight away look at whether there are MCQs in 2024 paper, last year paper. Now you must more and more start looking at past papers, not start looking at doing. Right, 34. Right, so let's start from let's do some MCQs. 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Right. So then 36, 37 SQL. Right. You can see we start with 30. 6 MCQs from database. 6. Out of 6, now we can do 4. Right. Quickly do the 30th. You have the past papers with you, right? Otherwise, it's in our Google Classroom also. You can download. Quickly do the 30th question. Always challenge yourself, right? Double check whether have you understood. Otherwise, your brain will say, yes, yes, you have understood because brain cheat you. But when you challenge, you can double check. Actually, have I understood it or not? It's not you have forgotten, right? So then your brain will say, no, no, just it has been forgotten. No, it's you haven't understood. Or you get the correct answer. So if you haven't understood, think about it. Study. That is for studying. Studying is not memorizing notes. Sorry, not 30th. So let's do it from 31st. Okay. Yeah, 30th is also related to programming. Right. So let's do it for 30 from 31st. So you check whether you know what is a primary key, what is a candidate key, what is foreign key. Remember we discussed about those things. You can give the answer to the chat also. You must have that confidence to give an answer. Use logical thinking, use common sense. Now I told you even when you go for supermarket, you must have a look at their system and see how they manage it. UI. So whenever you see a system, have a look at it because you are doing IT. What should be the database design? How they have developed it? What kind of application is it? Is it a web application, standalone program? What technology they may have used? Is it they are using Python? Are they using Java? Is it a web application? So now you must have that curiosity. Of course, if you are doing IT, right? Right. So let's see. Consider the following relation about a student who is registered in a program at an institute. This is the student table. Student S number, the unique registration number of the student. So that must be definitely then primary key or at least candidate key. SNIC, the national identity card of the student. So that is another candidate key, right? Another candidate key. You just need one of those. For me, I prefer SNO, right? Because it's V generated. SNIC I don't like because it's out of our control because the student might give wrong NIC. Student might say, I can't remember the NIC, then we are in trouble. So that is why I prefer this as a primary key, but this candidate key, candidate, candidate. But I prefer this as my primary key. Of course, other things are student name, student phone, program number, whatever, right? Unique number of the program for which the student has registered. Yes. So maybe this is one too many. Student register for one program because otherwise this is not going to work. Otherwise, this is going to be violating first normal for multiple values. So my immediately I assume that this is one too many. Student program one too many. Otherwise, this doesn't work. Otherwise, you need a connecting table. That means program can have many students. Student can register for one program. That is the assumption here. Simply by looking at the design. Right. Which of the following are correct? SNO can be the primary key. Yes. For me, that is the primary key, the best one. SNIC can be a candidate key. Yes. Both are candidate key, but I prefer to take SNO as the primary key, and both are candidate keys. Program number can be a foreign key. Yes. So this should be the foreign key for the program table. If you want to find the program name, program course fee, you need to go there. For me, all. 31st. What are your answers? 5th. Right. Don't worry if your answer is wrong, that's fine. Okay. For me, 5. Okay. Let's double check the answer. Mhm. 31. 5. Answer is 5. Okay. Right. Any questions? Right. Do the 30-second. If you have questions, you can ask. Okay. If you are not very clear or you have doubts, right. 30-second, you can do it quickly because it's related to, no, it's independent question. Which of the following are true? Table can have multiple candidate keys. Primary key is always a candidate key. Candidate key of one table can be used as foreign key in another table. This is little bit debatable question, right? Little bit debatable question. Uh, I don't like this question anyway, but anyway, sometimes life is not always fair. Little bit unfair question. I will tell you why it is unfair. But let's come up with the answer. What is your best answer? Just be strict and give the answer. But I don't know whether the examiner is loose. What to do if so? But be very strict and give the answer. Right. For me, A is okay. Or not okay is correct. Table can have multiple candidate keys, right? Of course. You can have multiple candidate keys like student number and NIC and so on. There's no doubt about that. Okay. Primary key is always a candidate key, obvious, right? Primary key is selected from the candidate keys. That is obvious. Okay. So therefore, if A and B are not there, I'm not going to select that. So A is not there, B is not there. A candidate key of one table can be used as foreign key in another table. That I don't take because it must be primary key of one table can be used as foreign key of another table. But obviously, obviously your candidate key can be the primary key, but we don't know. Candidate key may be your primary key, or maybe you have decided some other candidate key is your primary key. So therefore, the definition of foreign key is not candidate key. Your primary key is taken as the foreign key. So in a very strict mindset, I will say no. But in a loosely, examiner might take this. Okay. But I am very strict, right? That is, I told you this question is a little bit not very good. Of course, I hope examiner is also very expecting a strict answer. But if examiner is expecting a loose answer, I'm going to lose my marks. But I will be very strict and I will give only A and B. Right? Two. Right. So let's see. Uh, Answer must be either two or five, but I go with the second one because I'm pretty much a very strict person when it comes to logical thinking. But I don't know if the examiner go for five. Okay. Let's see. 32. Yeah, examiners use fifth one. Right? Examiners use fifth one. Maybe because it says can be used. Like can be used. It doesn't say must be used, right? That's why I told you, right? In a very strict sense, primary key must be used. I think the word can be used is there, right? Not must be used. I think that is why examiner has taken it. Actually, I didn't pay attention to the word can be used. It can be actually then of course any field can be used as the primary key also, right? Any field. So that is why I told you this is very loosely worded question. Loosely worded question. So examiner has used all. Okay, all. So that is life. What to do? Right? What to do? I like to ask this question from ChatGPT also and check whether chat what the ChatGPT think about this. So if maybe ChatGPT also go with the examiner, that is fine, right? Not everyone agree with you, right, in life. But anyway, I like to check that. And ChatGPT says true, B is true. ChatGPT also say, I think ChatGPT also go by the word can be. Okay. Right. You can see not just the primary key. It says, yeah, it can be foreign, any foreign key also. Right? But usually it is the primary key is taken it as the foreign key. But in rare situations, if you go with the any other candidate key, still it will work, but it's not the best practice. That is not the best practice. Best practice is take your primary key as the foreign key, right? But theoretically, we can't reject this answer also. So therefore, ChatGPT also says, yeah, possibly yes. Okay, right, right. 30, 33. Do the 33rd one. Which of the following are example of one-to-many relationships? Right, do it. So this is a typical textbook question. Nothing much to think. Just know, apply your basics. This is not going to be a debatable answer, right? One to many. Remember, you need to look at both sides. When I define a one-to-one relation, one to many to many, I use a two-part definition. One-to-one means every element of A is associated with one element of B, and every element of B is associated with only one element of A. Likewise, whenever I define, I use two-way definition because I know the importance of that, because otherwise it's not correct. Now, if you have done it in that kind of a serious mindset, now you must have the answer. But if you are not very serious, you are very casual, and now you are in trouble. What are your answers? Or what is your answer? No one has an answer. So you can take your time because in the exam paper, you have enough time. Usually, time is not a big issue for a ICT paper. Right. A customer can place many orders, but each order is placed by only one customer. That is one to many. Right? Customer order. One customer can place many orders, but one order belong to one customer. Right? One customer can place many orders, and one order belong to one customer. That is one to many. An employee can be assigned to multiple projects, and each project can have multiple employees. That is meant to many. One department has one manager, and each manager manages multiple departments. Remember, one department can have one manager, one manager, and one manager can manage many departments. Okay, so it's also one to many because it's sort of a many to one. But if you look at it from other side, it's one to many, right? I don't know if the examiner will take it as many to one, but in database terminology, we just call it one to many. Now again, I'm in trouble if examiner is thinking this as many to one, but remember many to one is also from other side one to many. Therefore, I'll take it. But this is a tricky one. Okay. If the examiner doesn't take this as answer, I'm very upset with the examiner because that means examiner is little bit stupid for me then. Okay. A supplier can supply only one item, right? Supply an item. That means supplier can supply only one item, and each man, sorry, and an item can be supplied by only one supplier. That is definitely one to one, right? So now I want to check whether AC, uh, uh, because I will go for C also. Okay, sorry, C is anyway answer. The only thing is, yeah, one C is answer, but it's I don't know if the examiner take it as many to one, right? So anyway, I'll go for A and C. A and C. Luckily, only A is not there. So therefore, I don't have any issue now because only A is not there. That means definitely examiner has taken this as one to many. Okay. So what are your answers? Yeah, second one. Yeah, I'll also go with second one. I'll also go with second one. 33. Let's see. Yeah, second one. Right, second one. Right. 34. Remember, Bennett one is also one to many from other side. Okay. Right. So the examiners uh, not bully you. Right, 34. Match the normal form label from 0 to 3 to the corresponding description label from A to D. Right, quickly do it. So remember, 0 normal form means not normalized. It's not even in first normal form, right? I told you, right? There's nothing called 0 normal form. 0 normal form means it's not even in first normal form. Right, quickly do it. I told you the short words we use, right? Partial dependency, transitive dependency, atomicity. Now, when I do only one paper, you are supposed to do all the past papers. Because we are going to do few more past papers at the end. I am not someone who are interested in doing past papers. So many past papers, right? Some students think that they can pass exams through past papers. That is parrots. They try to familiarize with all the questions without understanding. So I prefer to make you understand the subject and you guys do the past papers and ask any questions. Right? For example, now these days 2024 students in about 3 months the 2024 student have questions ex papers. Okay, can see these are the 2024 question students. They are asking so many questions. That is fine, right? That is fine. So that means now they are very seriously committed to the exams. So at any time, even these days, if you have any part, when you go through the past paper question, if you find an answer which is contradicting your answer, just send me the question, screenshot, and just explain why you are worried about that or why you are not agreeing with the answer. Then I can also, sometimes I will also agree with you. Or I will say, no, your thinking is not correct. Okay. Right. So let's take this answer. Uh, right. I will just start with the easier thing. Transitive dependency means third normal form. Okay. Full functional dependency, no partial dependency. Second. Single value attribute means first normal form. Then, of course, the repeating data means it's not a single value. Right? So then it must be zero normal form. I'll go for 0C, 1A, 2B, 2B is not there. 2B is not there, not here. So then I need to look at this one. 2B, 3D, 0A. Single value attributes. Zero normal form, single value attribute. But if it is single value attribute, it is in first normal form, right? That is unfair answer. Right? So that is a terrible question answer. Now the debate is between second and fourth. Right? Second and fourth. For me, actually, my answer is not here. My answer is 0C, 1A, 2C, 3D. Okay. That is my answer actually. Because repeating data means for me it's zero normal form. But 0C1A, then this is not 2D. This must be 2C. Sorry, 2B. Correct. 2B. So this is 2B then. And 3D. But 0C1A is here. But then this is wrong. 2B, 3D is here. But this part is different. So therefore my answer is not here. Right? My answer is not here. But definitely answer must be one of these two. I don't know which one. I will randomly take answer what to do. But I'm pretty sure about 2B to 3D. That I'm pretty sure. So therefore, I will go for the second one. Because I'm pretty sure about 2B, 3D. Right? Second normal form, fully functional dependency. Third normal form, transitive dependence. So therefore, I'll go for two. I'm pretty sure examiner's answer must be second one. Because ultimately, I want to find the examiner's answer in the exams, right? I'll go for two. 34, 4. Right? 2D, 3B. 2D, second normal form, transitive dependence. How comes that? Third normal form, full functional dependence. That is a strange answer, okay? I definitely want to check with the ChatGPT. Whether ChatGPT also agree with the examiner, right? I will be really upset with ChatGPT also if ChatGPT agree with the examiner. By the way, I went for two, but anyway, I was not very convinced about the second one also, right? But then I thought the best one is the second one. But examiner's answer is actually not the second one also. Okay. Examiner's answer is actually fourth one. Okay, shall we ask from ChatGPT? Right, we'll do something like this. We'll ask ChatGPT to map it. Right. We'll ask ChatGPT to map it. Okay, so let's do a clever trick. So rather than influenced by answers, and see whether ChatGPT come up with this or one of these. Okay. So usually ChatGPT is really good at doing these things. Map column 1 to column 2. We'll ask it as not as MCQ, right? Just to see what is the ChatGPT's independent analysis. Right. So ChatGPT says CABD. CABD. So that is exactly my answer. You can see that is exactly my answer. You can see ChatGPT agree with me. CABD. Actually, that should be the answer. And that must be the answer. That is why I told you that the correct answer is not there. And out of that also, it's a terrible answer that examiner has taken fourth one. Actually, examiner, at least examiner should have taken second one. Okay? Second one. Right? Because this is the sure part. Right? But ChatGPT says answer must be CABD. But CABD is not here. Okay? Right. So anyway, that's a very poor question for me. Uh, I don't know why. It's terrible question for me. Terrible, actually terrible question and terrible answer also because the correct answer is not there. Okay. Anyway, examiner has taken fourth one. That is unfortunate. But even ChatGPT says this is the answer. Okay. Right. Anyway, that is life, right? Life is not always fair. Right? Life is not always fair. People make mistakes, but I hope. But I don't like examiners making mistakes because it can cost people's dreams. Right? That is why examiners must be super serious. But I don't know why this examiner is not serious. Actually, this paper is good, but answers are not very standard. Okay. Right. What about 35th? What is the primary purpose of the database normalization? I do it. Primary purpose. Best answer. So there are two good answers. Out of those two, what is the best? I hope this time at least examine agree with us. Or me first. Because I haven't checked these answers. Right. I'm also like you now. Right. What are your answers? And let's see whether you examiner agree with your answers or my answers, or examiner is not agreeing with any of us answers. When you give answers, give the question number and answer. Otherwise, I can't check whether you have answered for the previous one or not. Okay, so just give the something like 35 and say, right? Otherwise, I get confused. Okay, because sometimes you answer a question and then skip another one, then I don't know whether it's the previous one or new one. Okay, try to give the question number also. Right, 35. One answer is third one. Right, one answer is third one. Right. I don't know the other answer whether it's for 35th one or 34th one. Okay. Right. So let's see. Eliminate the data redundancy and anomalies. So that is for me good answer. It eliminate data redundancy and anomalies. Okay. Increasing the number of tables in the database. That is not the purpose. That is definitely not answer for me. Organizing data into logical structure and relationship. That is also good answer for me. So this is a good answer. This is a good answer. Simplifying database queries? Actually, no. Sometimes when you normalize, database queries become more complex. That is one of the reasons why we go for denormalization. Because when remember, we break it into different tables. When we take it into different tables, when we learn SQL, you will find that it's difficult to write SQL. You need to join. So therefore, I will say definitely this is not an answer. And also speeding up database queries is definitely not an answer because when you break it into tables, because normalization often needs taking fields to the other tables. create a new table, like for example, first normal form, right? Take out that non-atomic field and create a new table and then join it using foreign key. That means now not one table, we have two tables. So therefore, for me, 4 and 5 are definitely no answer. Okay. And also 2. So again, we are in little bit of a trouble now. Which one is the best answer? Is it 1 or 3? Okay. Uh, I will also settle for the third one because I feel like that is the best I can think of. But 1 is also not a bad one, right? Data redundancy and anomalies. That is also very good answer actually. 50-50 for me. But I prefer to go for third one. Okay. Let's hope examiner is also going for the third one, not for the first one. But debate is whether 1 or 3. I'll also settle for 3. Okay. 35. Oh, examiner has decided to go for 1. Right. Today the luck is not also good. Actually, this is very fuzzy answer. Eliminating data redundancy and anomalies because this word anomalies is heavily used. Okay, anomalies. I told you the competition is between 1 and 3. Uh, yeah, maybe examiner has thought this as the normal designing process because this is our normal designing process, like, and then maybe we are fine tuning it. Uh, the normalization is doing this kind of fine tuning. But anyway, in general, in designing, we are really interested in 1 and 3. Right? Normalization is part of the designing process, but anyway, examiner has taken it as first. And if you see this kind of a question, go for the first one. Right? Eliminate data redundancy and anomalies. Right. So there are some fuzzy answers, unfortunately. Okay. So that is very rare in A-level papers, but it looks like last year paper has, anyway, at least the database questions, some answers are really controversial, some answers are fuzzy. Of course, fuzzy doesn't mean that the answer is wrong, but definitely this one I strongly think answer is wrong. Okay, answer is wrong. But anyway, so this is debatable answer also. Okay. Right. So then we have the two SQL questions which we can't do it yet. Okay. Right. So we'll take a small break. After the break, we'll move on to SQL. Okay. So don't worry. Not every year you have this kind of a fussiness. This is a rare situation. We have, I think, 2 or 3 questions debatable. Right. Right. So now it's 5:22. We'll start at 5:30, and we'll start SQL. And we will be using MySQL. Okay. Database. I'll explain how to install it. Okay, so let's continue. Right, so now we move on to uh, SQL. First of all, to do SQL, we need some serious database because we use Microsoft Access because it's very easy to use database to understand designing concepts. But in your A-level ICT, you are supposed to use MySQL database. Okay, right. So therefore, MySQL, there are different ways you can install. I don't mind whatever the way. If you have already installed it, maybe you have installed it under the guidance of your school or whatever. I don't mind. If you already have SQL, don't worry. Just use that MySQL. Okay. This is another way of installing MySQL. Remember, after programming subject, you have web development. In web development, we need a web server because you have PHP as a language, PHP development. For that, you need a web server. So therefore, the better thing is you install a pre-configured software that has both MySQL and PHP. PHP means web server, Apache web server. So there are different software packages, right? Whatever the software package, if you are already using, just use it. Don't worry because pretty much those software packages are the same. But I will be using MySQL. Sorry, I will be using SAM. But again, if you are already using something else, just use it. Don't worry. Okay. Because don't mess it with the software because if you try to install multiple software, sometimes none of these work unless you again uninstall and install because uh, if more than one MySQL server is running, then you don't know which server you are using. Okay. Right. So this is the easiest or the more professional approach, but sometimes you may be using something else. I don't mind. Okay. Right. So if you want to use SAM, just do a Google search, SAM. Basically, SAMP has MySQL, Apache Web Server, and some other tools, but we are only interested in MySQL and Apache Web Server. MySQL for database subject, Apache Web Server when we are doing web development topic. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Right. So if you are interested in installing SAMP or whatever you are familiar, you can use. Right. So just do a Google search SAMP. The website name is apachefriends.org. Yeah, apachefriends.org. Just go to that website. It's super easy. Just download and install. Okay. So then, if you are using Windows, just click on this, and it will uh, download the Windows version. Okay, download the Windows version. Uh, where is that? Has it started downloading? Yes, it has started downloading. I cancel it because I have already installed it. Okay. So just double click and install. Just double click and install. And if you need some other software, sorry, if you have any other platform like, but anyway, for software development, it's always Windows is the best, especially for A-level students. Okay. If not, it is Linux. But if you have, uh, by any chance, if you have uh, Mac OS, okay, so then download this version and install it. Okay. Uh, Following the instructions. Okay. Right. So because I have a Windows, I have downloaded and installed this. It's simple as just double click and install it. Okay. Just say next, next, next and install it. So that you should be able to do it by yourself. Or else if you already have any other software that has MySQL, just use it. Okay. Because all are the same. Right. So then because I am using SAM, uh, after installation, right? Because I have already installed. So then search for SAMP if you are using SAMP or whatever the software you are using package, okay? SAMP, uh, because I am using SAMP. So in my case, I get this kind of a console where I can start Apache Web Server and MySQL. Don't start anything else. I will start Apache Web Server and it must be green after some times. If not, you need to find out what is the error, or you can send a screenshot of the error to my WhatsApp number. I can even help. Now you can see it's my case, it is green. That means Apache Web Server is running. Then I will start my SQL and it must also be green. So in my case, both are green. That means my Apache Web Server is running and also my database server is running. So that's all what we need for both database subject and web development subject. Right. So other than these two software, you need Python later on when we do programming. Right. So that means now we need three software. Uh, Out of these three software now, we have I have installed two software, that is my Apache Web Server and MySQL, because I have installed SAM. Or whatever the package you use, just use it. Okay, right. So that's it. So then make sure both are green, or else you will see error message here in red mark. Right, no red error messages. And if you get error, just search the error message in ChatGPT. Just give the screenshot to ChatGPT. ChatGPT will give you the solution. Or do a Google search. Or search in YouTube. Now you must be more and more serious now, right? It's responsible, right? You are doing technology. If you are doing technology, you must not afraid of trying new things. You must not afraid of error messages. You must face it and fix it. That is what engineers, technology oriented people do, right? We don't run away. Right. So then you can click on this admin in MySQL. You can see there's a button called admin under MySQL. Just click on that. That will, because the web server is also running, we can then connect to the database server through web page. Because now web server is running in my machine. That is why it says Apache is running. So then through the web server, we can connect to database. That is the easiest way to do it. But don't worry, it will take a bit of time. Sometimes it can take about 1 minute. All right. So just be patient, because if these are green, no issues at all. Right? No issues at all. I'm just waiting for my web page to connect to database. Yeah. Right. I got the database. That is called PHP My Admin Panel. Okay. You will not have this kind of large number of databases. I think just one database will be their sample database. Okay. In your case, when you freshly install it. Of course, I have so many databases for previous A-level ICT badges and so on. Okay. Uh, right. So then, so if you get this screen, that means you are done. Right. No issue at all. Now we are ready to do some SQL. Right. And also later some PHP programming, web development. And again, if you get an error, send me a message with the screenshot and first try to find it by yourself. If you can't figure it out, send me a message with screenshot of the error and so on. I can help you. And if you're already using some other software, just continue using it as long as you have access to the PHP and MySQL. Okay. Right. So then you need to create a database. Create a database. It's very easy. So there's something called new, right? New. Just click on that. Okay. Just click on that. And then you can give the database name. So I'll call it A-Level ICT 2026. Just any name, right? Don't use spaces and so on. I just call it A-Level ICT 2026. And here, this is language. Don't worry, just select the default one. Right? Don't worry, just select the default language. Uh, it should work. Okay, I'll say create. So it says database is created, and now in this, I should see A-Level ICT 2026. You can see that is my database. Okay. You can click it. So always make sure you are in the correct database. Okay. Now we can create tables, relationships, insert records, and so on. And when we want to write SQL, there's SQL tab, right? Here we can write SQL. First, we will not use SQL because I just want you guys to familiar with the PHP uh, and play around with the database. Always double check whether you have click on the correct database. And otherwise, you will be creating tables in other databases. Right? And how to create a table, because now my database has no table. So you can see by default, you go to the create table structure, right? Because no table is there. By default, when you click on the database, you are in the create table screen. So there you can give a name like, let's say, employee. Again, don't use spaces and so on, okay? Follow convention. My convention is for tables all simple. If more than one word, I use hyphen. Fields also, I follow the same thing. Okay. And number of columns you can change at any time. So therefore, don't worry too much about number of columns. Just whatever the default value. Create. And now we are in the create table screen. Later we will use SQL, don't worry. But first we need to play with this. So now you can give your field names. Remember did the same thing with Microsoft Access. So let's say this is our employee table, right? Yeah. I'll call this employee ID underscore ID. Data type, I'm happy with integer because I'm going to make it auto number. Remember, we use the same concept in Access. I'll just keep int. And when you scroll here, there's something called index, right? Make sure you select primary because we want to make it primary key, primary index. So primary key. Don't change any of these things. Just say go. And also, if you want, you can make it auto increment. Auto increment means auto number. That is very easy. Then, okay, it's easier because then you don't need to give primary key value for the when you do inserts and so on because it will give the take 1, 2, 3, 4 and the next number for primary key field. But I'll tick the auto increment, but if you prefer, you can just skip it. Okay, just skip it. Then you need to insert it. Or shall we keep it not auto increment so that we will insert the primary key number? Okay, that is not the best thing, but for A level, I have not seen auto number is used in your past papers and so on. So therefore, let's enter this by ourselves. Okay, so I have unticked the AI. AI means not artificial intelligence. This is auto increment, right? I have not ticked the auto increment, but I have made this a primary key. I have made this primary key. Okay, right. So then I can add few more fields. This is employee table. I will say name. Remember, we did not use the word name in Access because name is a keyword in Access, but you don't have that issue in MySQL. So you can just use name as a field name. Name, of course, it is not integer. Uh, I usually go for varchar. Even you can use text also. Varchar, variable character. That is the standard data type in MySQL. But if you go for varchar, you must give the width. Always, it's a must. Something like 20 characters. There is a maximum number of characters you can enter for name field. If you feel like this is not enough, increase it. That's fine. At any time, you can increase. Right. I'm not going to select anything because this is not my primary key. Primary key I have already set up here. Right. Then maybe something like salary. I don't want to add so many fields. Yeah, that's enough. Salary, don't make it ink because decimals are possible. Maybe you can go for something like double. Okay, double, float, decimal, all are valid. Right. So I'm happy with these three fields. Later I can add maybe foreign key to this one, but for the time being, this is enough for me. Okay. Then you need to go down and say save. This is not SQL. This is just familiar with MySQL. Okay. Right. So now, if you expand this, you can see our A-level ICT 2026 database has a field called employee. And you can see that it is the primary key. Okay. Then you have the name field, which is varchar 20, and salary field, which is double. At any time, if you want to do some changes, you can click on change and change the data type, rename the fields, name, and so on. Change the primary key. Okay. But I'm happy with this. Okay. Uh, Now, if you go to the browse, obviously there are no data because I have not inserted any record. Okay, it's empty. And then you have the insert tab. If you want to insert any data to this particular table or any other table. Since I have clicked on employee, it has come to the insert employee uh, screen when I click on insert. Now these are the three fields available. Because I have not selected auto number, I need to enter a unique value for employee ID. I will say 1. Name, I will say Nimal. Salary, I will say 120,000. And then you need to say go. That will insert the first record. And it shows the SQL statement, but don't worry, we are going to write SQL from next class. But this is just familiar with MySQL. Right? Still, record is not inserted. It just shows you the insert statement. Now you need to say go. Then actually this SQL is executed. But later we will write the SQL, right? Now we get the help from MySQL tool, right? Go. Right? Why am I having error? Because it's sorry, it has already inserted. Sorry, it has inserted and showed me the SQL. So therefore, this is it's try to insert the same records twice. Remember, my primary key is employee ID. Employee ID already it has inserted that. Actually, it has inserted the record and showed me the SQL. Then again, I ask you to go. That means again, I ask you to insert the same record twice, but it is not allowed because one is already there, right? One is already there. But if you need another record, maybe you can change it to 2. Or let's go and browse and see whether the first record is there. Yes, one Nimal 120,000 is there. Now, if you need another record, again go to insert, but don't use the employee ID one, then you will get error. Say 2, say Kamal 150,000 and say go. Right. Right. So that means inserted. You can see one row inserted. Uh, right. If you go say again go, it will try to insert again. That is what happened last time. Okay. So don't do that. It has inserted and now it shows what SQL it has executed. Okay. Don't worry. We will write the SQL later. Now, if you go to the browse, there should be 2 records. At any time, you can delete a record, you can edit a record. But this is not the way we are going to insert, update, delete. We are going to use SQL, right? But this is just make you familiar with the database because there's another way, just connecting to the database using command line, but there is a little bit more technical thing. So I don't like A-level ICT students using a lot of command line and so on. Okay, so I prefer you guys just work with this kind of a tool. But make sure if you have any errors, just talk to me and fix those errors. Okay, get the help from me or anyone else and fix it. And you must have one way or the other a way to connect to database, because otherwise you can't do this. Right? You can't do this because this online class you need to interact with me. If you have any issues, you need to talk to me. Right? For example, you can see this is you can see A-level ICT 24, that is last year students, so they still talk to me, right? Uh, so, sir, are you free now? Can I call you? I just told him that I have class right now and call me after 6. So that is because these guys still call me because they used to that, right? They used to talk to me, right? So now they have finished their exams and this guy has selected for the university also, but still they talk to us when they have anything to discuss and so on, right? So you guys must get into that kind of mindset, okay? Uh, right, because yes, this is online class, but you can interact with me. Don't worry, right? Whenever I am free, right? So if I even can interact with the old students, so why can't I interact with you guys? Okay, because you guys are my main priority, right? Uh, and also you will see that some students are giving me some past paper questions and discussing answers, right? So, so it's a continuous discussion with these guys, okay, uh, and so on. So don't just send me messages saying only payment is done, right? So there's something more than that, right? So now make sure you have the access to the MySQL one way or the other, and maybe we can create another table, right? And so on. Okay. Uh, and if you want another table, you can just say new, give it a name, maybe department, but later we will use my SQL, say department ID, int, right? Make it primary key. But again, I will not go for to increment. So then I will say name again, department name, again Vacha, maybe 20, maybe location, maybe another Vacha, 20, and so on, right? Then I can say save. That means you have two tables now. You can see department and employee. Still department table doesn't have any data. You can insert. So just be familiar with, okay. Say department one, say HR, say FIN, location is say Candy, go. So now you have one record in your department table. You can see one FIN Candy. If you want one more, say two HR, say Jaffna, and blah blah blah. Okay, right. So now then we can create another foreign key for this one. Say employee table, we can add a foreign key for department ID and so on. Okay. But we are going from next week, we are going to use SQL. For example, if I want to find data, say select star from employee. So that is how we are going to work with database, right, from next week. So then I can say again, where is go? Yeah, go. So then it gives you the results. So when I execute this, okay. So here I can write insert statement to insert record. So that is what we are going to learn from the next class. Okay. Right. So we stop at this point. Uh, so we need two classes to finish SQL. Then database is over. So then we are going to do few more MCQs then. second paper questions, because every year there's a second paper question. Every year, guaranteed. Okay, for database. Okay, right. We stop at this point, right? Thank you.